Like some concepts within the series, Jujutsu Kaisen's events can get a little confusing. Time itself isn't presented as linear, there's flashbacks coupled in between current happenings. For example, we only get a full rundown of the Star Plasma Vessel incident during a flashback. So today, we'll be breaking down all the important dates within this iconic series. NARA Era, 710 to 784. During the NARA era, a time period from only the early to late 700s, Master Tengen spread Buddhism across Japan and the foundations for Jujutsu sorcerers. This also kickstarts the Time Vessel Association. What's interesting here is the real-life parallel. The NARA period saw the emergence of two schools of Buddhism, as well as the religion becoming more commonplace. So there are some historical similarities within the series. In fact, another example can be seen within the next era. Not only was it touted in the universe as a golden age for sorcery, it was historically a gilded era for art and architecture. That being said, let's move on to the HEIAN era. HEIAN era, golden age of sorcery, 794 to 1185. The Heian period was home to several big moments. It's important to note that this period ran from 794 to 1185. Firstly, it was considered the golden age of sorcery. There isn't much information regarding this time period, however, we do know that Ryomen Sukuna was alive and subsequently died during this era. Besides that, there is another sorcery forest that emerges. Or forests, really. The big three sorcerer families were established, which were the Gojo, Zenin, and Kamo families. It's very plausible that the Gojo clan came to prominence due to two past 6-eye users defeating Kenjaku. This rise of powerful sorcerer clans and Sukuna himself are certainly hail marks for a golden age. But before we go any further, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for some plot armor today. Finally, the golden age was also home to Kenjaku. During this period, Kenjaku was thwarted by the 6 Eyes in his attempt to kill the Star Plasma Vessel. Speaking of Kenjaku, let's transition to his whereabouts in the Sengoku era. Sengoku era, 1467 to 1615. During the 1500s, Kenjaku killed the Star Plasma Vessel and the 6 Eyes user. Killing the 6 Eyes baby was due to Kenjaku's previous defeat at the hands of two past 6 Eyes. But on the day of Master Tengen's merging, both a vessel and 6 Eyes reappear, ruining Kenjaku's plans once more. Edo period, 1603 to 1867. Now venturing into the 1600s to late 1860s is the Edo period. During this time, the two respective heads of the Gojo and Zenin families killed one another. Unfortunately, this resulted in a long-term bad blood that was even felt in the modern sorcerer age. Another noteworthy aspect of this era is the fact that there was still no aristocracy. It can be assumed that the modern Jujutsu world as we know it wasn't formed until later on. Meiji era, 1868 to 1912. In the Meiji era, which lasted from the 1860s to around the early 1910s, Kenjaku used his curse technique to inhabit Noritoshi Kamo's body. He went on to become the most evil sorcerer in Jujutsu history and created the 9 cursed womb death paintings. Besides Kenjaku's death paintings, a Gojo ancestor with both 6 eyes and limitless is born. This is the last user of the combined techniques until Satoru Gojo's birth. With both Kenjaku absent from the sorcery world and the stability of the 3 big sorcerer families, there is a gap between the 1800s to the 1970s. Late 1970s to early 80s. Between the late 70s and early 80s, Toji Fushiguro was born into the Zenin family with no cursed energy nor technique. This resulted in Toji having an insanely powerful physical body and senses, which is recognized as heavenly restriction. His lack of technique would lead to Toji being ostracized within the family. December 7th, 1989. Then Satoru Gojo, the best sorcerer of the modern age, is born in 1989. His birth also marks the first time in 100 years a sorcerer was born with both 6 eyes and limitless. Besides this, Satoru's birth marked an upset within the Jujutsu world, so much so that there was a bounty placed on Satoru, despite the sorcerer being a literal baby. After all, his power had defeated Kenjaku twice in the past. February 3rd, 1990. Shortly after Satoru's birth, sorcerer turned rogue curse Suguru Geto is born in early 1990. Suguru comes into a family of non-sorcerers, the complete opposite of Satoru. Late 1990s. Sometime in the late 1990s, teenage Toji meets a child Satoru. This is a remarkable meeting for Toji because Satoru is the first and last sorcerer to acknowledge Toji's presence from behind. Toji himself is practically invisible to sorcerers due to his lack of cursed energy. Around this time as well, Toji leaves the Zenin household due to the influence of his lover, Megami's mother. 2000. In the year 2000, Satoru is hunted by bounty hunters. A bounty was placed due to Satoru possessing these 6 eyes. In fact, sorcerers Ogami and Jiro Awasaka take on a contract to kill Satoru. Ultimately, they don't follow through. Satoru being able to notice them so easily was upsetting enough for the hired killers to step down. Quite embarrassing. This isn't to say they won't seek revenge later though. March 7th, 2001. In 2001, Yuta Okotsu, initially a special grade cursed human with insane jujutsu ability, is born. January 20th, 2002. Twins Maki and Mai Zenin are born close to a year later in 2002. Being treated as one entity, cursed energy is not split evenly between the two. For example, Maki is born with partial heavenly restriction, which leaves her with very little cursed energy and no technique. Her sister Mai has cursed energy, and because they're seen as one individual, Mai's cursed energy holds back Maki from being a completely realized heavenly restriction. Maki's heavenly restriction is only fully developed later on, becoming eerily similar to Toji's. August 7th, 2002. Also in 2002, 1/3 of the main trio and Straw Doll user Nobara Kugisaki is born. December 22nd, 2002. Then in late 2002, Toji Fushiguro's son, Megami Zenin, is born. His birth is most likely around the time Toji's in his late 20s or early 30s. Shortly after Megami's birth, Toji's wife dies. This prompts Toji to become unhinged as ever. He would then begin a life of mercenary work with shady individuals. His targets are typically sorcerers, resulting in the infamous moniker, the Sorcerer Killer. Rather, Toji is so disinterested in non-sorcerers that he cannot even confirm if the Star Plasma Vessel's caretaker survived. March 20th, 2003. Skipping into March of 2003, we have a bit of a doozy. Future Sukuna Vessel and possible death painting, Yuji Itadori is born. For context, it's plausible for Yuji to be a death painting only because his mother was seen to have been taken over by Kenjaku. This is very shortly after Yuji's birth, meaning it also could have happened after he was born. It's a tricky topic, but perhaps Yuji's own grandfather was aware. He seems disgruntled and untrusting of Yuji's mother, referring to her as that woman, and predicting she'll lead to Jin's, Yuji's father, death. 2005. In 2005, Satoru and Suguru began their first years as Jujutsu High students. Both are considered to be remarkable sorcerers due to their techniques. Satoru is after all the holder of 6 eyes and limitless, meanwhile Suguru can manipulate curses via eating them. August of 2006. After 500 years, Master Tengen is due to merge with another Star Plasma vessel. Enter Riko Amanai, a young girl destined to be Tengen's vessel. For context, Tengen requires a new vessel due to his cursed technique, which offers immortality at the cost of merging with a different body. Of course, the merge essentially creates one being. The vessel would be overwritten with Tengen's consciousness. Without merging, Tengen will undergo evolution. In fact, this doesn't sound too bad, but consider this. Tengen experiencing evolution will lead to the sorcerer becoming more cursed spirit than human, ultimately meaning he would be a target for any technique that could manipulate curses, like Suguru's. Pretty big deal overall. So second year Satoru and Suguru are tasked with protecting Riko until the merger. Unfortunately, this is the Star Plasma Vessel incident. There is the unaccounted presence of Toji. Before we get into the incident, it's important to remember that Toji has married or perhaps remarried to Megami's stepmother. Wanting to forget his Zenin past, Toji takes his wife's last name, Fushiguro. Their marriage signifies Megami and Sumiki as step-siblings. Even so, Megami considers her his sister. Now, without going too in-depth, Toji kills the vessel and seemingly murders Satoru. However, Satoru revives via learning reverse curse technique. With his resurrection, Satoru is able to not only kill Toji by mastering 6 eyes and limitless, but he secures Riko's body. On death's door, Toji reveals to Satoru that he planned to sell his son, Megami, back into the Zenin household. However, this wasn't for several years. Because Toji killed the vessel just before a merger, Tengen undergoes evolution for the next 11 years. September of 2007. The next year, in September, Suguru deviates from his school in the Jujutsu world, murdering a village of 112. For his actions, Suguru is branded a curse user who is up for execution. His loss to Toji and the constant cycle of exorcism clearly paid its toll. But that's not all. After Satoru hears about Suguru's betrayal, he confronts him in Shinjuku. Satoru is unable to kill his best friend, allowing the cursed user, Suguru, to escape. August of 2009. 3 years after the Star Plasma Vessel incident, Satoru pays a visit to a younger Megumi. At this point, Satoru is 19 while Megumi is 6, having started 1st grade. His stepmother isn't present. Megumi believes she ran off like Toji. Sadly, Megumi isn't aware of his father's death. In fact, Satoru decides not to tell him and instead takes in the young sorcerer, albeit he does express that Toji was a bad person. Oddly enough, Satoru isn't the only one active during 2009. Suguru began his cult in this year as well. His group serves as a means to collect curses and funds, another cog in his grand scheme. Yet the people that make up his cult aren't just random. Suguru's cult is none other than the former Time Vessel Association. His takeover isn't peaceful, he murdered members who opposed him, flexing his leadership through fear and raw power. March of 2010. Fast forward to March of 2010, Yuta celebrates his 10th birthday. On the same day, his best friend, Rika Orimoto, dies and Yuta inadvertently curses her spirit, producing a vengeful spirit that begins to follow Yuta around. Yuta had believed himself to be a normal person, completely unaware of his minor relation to Satoru Gojo and the ancient sorcerer Michizane Suwagara. 2012. In 2012, Kenjaku obtained the cube-shaped cursed object, Prison Realm. His endgame is to use Prison Realm to trap Satoru. Really, Kenjaku has a personal grudge against him. Satoru is the most recent user of 6 Eyes, an innate technique that has bested Kenjaku at least twice. Besides, trapping Satoru furthers Kenjaku's future plans. It comes into play later, but Kenjaku's Prison Realm is considered a front gate, meaning that there has to be a back gate, which becomes relevant as we'll see soon. November of 2016. Now we'll skip several years to 2016, specifically November. Yuta has been haunted by Rika's cursed spirit for 6 years. Anyone that comes near him or threatens him is harmed by the Queen of Curses, a very fitting moniker. After a particular incident involving a fellow student, Yuta is found and taken by Jujutsu higher-ups. Originally the plan was to execute him, something even Yuta was fine with. However, Satoru steps in, saying Jujutsu High will look over the cursed human. Yuta has to be convinced by Satoru to even attend the school. April of 2017. Next, in 2017, around April, Sumiki is cursed due to Yasobachi Bridge. With the information gathered from the culling game later on, it's very plausible her curse was a setup by Kenjaku. Knowing he planned so much in advance, Kenjaku most likely caused other non-sorcerers to fall into a coma as a requirement to mark them. She falls into a coma. Sumiki is 15, while Megumi is 14, 1 year before his admission into Jujutsu High. August of 2017. But let's pivot back to Yuta in August of 2017. His time at Jujutsu High begins alongside Panda, a cursed corp, Maki Zenin, a sorcerer unable to see curses but benefits from a powerful body, and finally Toge Inumaki, a cursed speech user. Yuta is classified as a special grade sorcerer, of which there are only 4. September of 2017. Suguru invades Jujutsu High with his commanders. He is unable to recruit Yuta. However, Suguru's trip isn't for nothing. The rogue curse user announces that on December 24th, he'll unleash a terrorist attack against Jujutsu High and the sorcerer world. At sundown, Shinjuku and Kyoto will be faced with a legion of curses, 1,000 at each location, and of course they'll be ordered to attack. This night parade of 100 demons will be nothing short of a massacre. December 24th, 2017. On December 24th, the very day Suguru warned, Yuta and Maki at the high school Watoge and Panda assist in Shinjuku. Without much delay, Suguru summons a curtain over Jujutsu High, signaling the beginning of his night parade. Despite their best efforts, Panda, Toge, and Maki are defeated by Suguru. This only leaves Yuta and Suguru against one another. Exactly what Suguru wants. After all, his plan is to kill Yuta and absorb his curse, Rika. Suguru underestimates Yuta. In spite of only being a first year, Yuta is able to utilize Rika and his curse energy. Because of this, Yuta unravels Rika's curse, freeing her. But back to Suguru. He is gravely injured by Yuta and finished off by Satoru. For reasons unknown, his body wasn't destroyed due to Satoru's intervention. Suguru's corpse would then fall into the hands of Kenjaku. The ancient sorcerer inhabits the outlaw's body via his curse technique. 2018. Around early 2018, Kenjaku implants cursed objects within non-sorcerers in preparation for the culling games. These cursed objects are meant to essentially act as a means for previously dead sorcerers to reincarnate. It can be assumed this works like Yuji and Sukuna. Rather, let's dive into that now. June of 2018. In the summer, specifically June, one of Sukuna's fingers is discovered at Sukisawa Municipal High School. Sukuna's fingers are cursed objects with a chance to resurrect Sukuna if consumed. However, resurrection is a very small chance. It is more likely that someone would die from ingesting a finger. Finding the cursed object is a complete accident, considering the finger is sealed and in a thermometer box. The seal isn't as strong as it was because time has weakened it in such a way that non-sorcerers can unseal the finger. Sadly, it is found by Yuji and his fellow occult club members. Yuji's friends unwittingly unseal Sukuna's finger, putting themselves in danger. Without much choice, Yuji ends up consuming Sukuna's finger. Sukuna is reincarnated, but Yuji is able to regain control over his body and has a set execution. Thankfully though, Satoru convinces higher-ups to allow Yuji to live until he consumes all of Sukuna's fingers. Then he can be executed. 2 birds and 1 stone, really. Yuji begins his first year at Jujutsu High with Megumi, and not long after, Nobara Kugisaki. They aren't the only people organizing. Kenjaku, still masquerading as Suguru, attends a meeting with curses. July of 2018. Nobara, Megumi, and Yuji arrive at a detention center due to a cursed womb. This is brought to them as an emergency rescue mission, but oddly enough, there aren't any survivors. Because Satoru is away, it's very likely this mission was assigned with the intent to kill Yuji. After all, there is conveniently a finger there for Sukuna. The finger was consumed by the cursed womb, causing a serious fight for the first years. Its intensity leads to Yuji freeing Sukuna, and even though Sukuna defeats the curse and reclaims a finger, Yuji is unable to regain control. In fact, this ends as Yuji's first death, allowing for secretive training under Satoru. Yuji learns not only the world of Jujutsu, but is training for the Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event, which is held in the summer. Assuming Yuji starts training in July, the Goodwill event takes place around September. During this training, Yuji is also briefly taken under the wing of Kento Nanami. They both meet someone they'll see again, the curse known as Mahito. Mahito's last conflict with Nanami will be deadly. September of 2018. After a couple of months, we enter the Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event. This is a 2-day competition that does exactly as its name states, an event meant to promote cooperation between the schools. It's held by the principals of both schools. Typically, the first day is group-based battles, while the second is individuals. In the previous year, Yuta participated and won for the Tokyo school. For this year's event, the first day is a spirit bash race, a competition to exercise the most spirit. There is a hidden agenda to kill Yuji though. Special grade curse Mahito orchestrates an attack which ends in casualties and general mayhem. But in spite of this, the students from both schools decide to continue with the second day's activities. Due to Satoru's involvement, the game they play on the second day breaks tradition. It is another team battle, baseball. Ultimately, it ends up the same as last year. Tokyo wins. In late September, Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara unravel the mystery at Yasobachi Bridge. They find a curse's barrier underneath it. However, this isn't the only threat. Just before they arrive, Mahito revealed the legendary cursed womb death paintings Choso, Eso, and Keichizu. While Megumi exercises the curses beneath the bridge, Yuji and Nobara take on Eso and Keichizu. The first years are successful in their bout and Megumi is able to perform his exorcism. Yet they forget a third death painting, Choso, who plans to exact revenge. October 19th, 2018. After the Goodwill event, it becomes clear that there is a traitor within Jujutsu High, whether it's at their Tokyo or Kyoto branch. Previously, Satoru asked Utahime to investigate. She learns the mole is none other than Kokichi Muta. Yet on the same day, Kokichi is confronted by Kenjaku and Mahito. However, due to a binding vow, Kokichi is healed to peak condition, the healthiest and strongest he's ever been. Despite this, Mahito ends up killing Kokichi, serving as a prelude to what's to come in Shibuya. October 31st, 2018. On October 31st, a massive barrier was created over Shibuya. Now, this is a huge section in the manga. It's amazing this happens in the span of a night, but let's dive in. Multiple sorcerers are sent to investigate. Even Satoru is summoned to this phenomenon. Once inside the curtain, Satoru fights several curses including Choso from the death paintings incident a month earlier. Due to an insane amount of curses released, several groups are sent within, one being composed of Meimei, Ui, and Yuji. They are only able to defeat a curse and break the object that was responsible for the curtain. This attack will go on to be considered the worst terrorist attack in Jujutsu history, created by Kenjaku. This event is meant to not only cause harm, but trap Satoru. Unfortunately, there are conditions required to trap someone, but regardless, Satoru is sealed within the realm. Meanwhile, other foes of Satoru also team up with Kenjaku, namely the assassins from his childhood. Ogami and her grandson summon Toji, who goes on a rampage and eventually comes face to face with his now teenage son, Megumi, though he does regain control and kill himself, dying a second time. Eventually, Yuji is separated from his team and ends up being fed at least 10 fingers by Suguru's associates and the cursed spirit Jogo. At this point, Yuji has consumed a total of 15 fingers, meaning only 5 are left before he is executed. Sukuna then awakens. But there is some bad news for Jogo. Sukuna ends up exorcising the spirit and comes face to face with an injured Megumi. Yuji is able to regain control over himself and assists with putting down the rampant curses. Considering this could be a video in itself, let's do a quick rundown on further events. Aoi Todo loses a hand, Kento is killed by Mahito, who also gravely wounds Nobara. At some point, Toei loses an entire arm. Mahito is then absorbed by Kenjaku, who sets in motion the culling games by resurrecting ancient sorcerers. Kenjaku also awakens non-sorcerers he marked previously. Surprisingly enough, one of them is Megumi's sister. With this new chaos brought about, Kenjaku is able to escape with his assistant and prison realm. Truthfully, there's an insane amount that happens. It really is an event. November 1st to 11th, 2018. The week and a half post Shibuya has several events. To keep the timeline less convoluted, we'll go over it as an entire week rather than a day-by-day basis. That being said, the culling games officially begin. Though because non-sorcerers were activated on Halloween, participants have 19 days to declare intention, meaning Megumi's sister Sumiki has until November 19th to declare her participation. While the rules suggest possibly not being able to be involved, that simply isn't the case. If any players don't declare, they're subject to curse technique removal. This would end in death, so players awakened or resurrected have no other choice but to declare their involvement. It's a catch-22 that forces players to be complacent or die. Barriers around Japan create 10 different wards. Megumi is desperate to save his sister, so he goes in search of Yuji. Yuji himself spends presumably several days exercising the numerous curses with Choso, at least until Yuta finds them. Yuta is tasked by the higher-ups with the hefty job of killing Yuji. The special great sorcerer doesn't seem to be against it, seemingly wanting revenge. Once he caught up to Yuji, Yuta revealed himself to be an ally. Yuta doesn't do it at first, killing Yuji for a second time before quickly healing him via reverse curse technique. This was an interesting twist due to how serious Yuta appeared. That being said, Megumi later finds the group. Choso, Yuji, Megumi, and Yuta all team up not only to stop the dangerous culling games, but save Megumi's sister as well. Meanwhile, the higher-up sees the opportunity to rule freeing Satoru as a crime, considering he is now branded as a criminal to Jujutsu society. It's important to remember that the higher-ups view Satoru as a threat, ergo eliminating the possibility of unsealing him keeps the status quo. Due to Kenjaku body-snatching Suguru, the latter sorcerer is believed to be alive and responsible for Shibuya. Two very bizarre takes from the higher-ups. You'd think the most powerful sorcerer of the modern age would be indoctrinated into the aristocracy, not to mention the higher-ups are so fearful of Satoru that surely they realize how unlikely it is for another sorcerer to survive a fight against him. Without proof of Suguru's body being destroyed, it can only be assumed he survived. Though outlawing the unsealment of Satoru is a power play and meant to penalize students like Megumi and Maki. On the topic of Satoru's allies, the Tokyo Jujutsu High Principal, Masamichi Yaga, is killed by the Kyoto Principal, Yoshinobu Gakuganji. Masamichi's execution was only ordered if he didn't indulge how he made Panda, a sentient cursed corpse. Like a real boss, Masamichi doesn't explain until his dying breath. Shortly after, Panda arrives and completely ignores Yoshinobu. He only wants to mourn, saying one of the most iconic lines in the series, "Even pandas cry." After joining forces, Yuji's group heads to Jujutsu High in order to learn more about the culling games and Kenjaku from Master Tengen. Once at the school, they learn of Masamichi's death from Panda. Maki also reveals to Megumi that he is now the head of the Zenin clan. In preparation for the games, Megumi sends Maki to their shared household. While the group gets organized to join the game, Yuta scouts ahead. The Zenin family has a warehouse full of cursed tools which would be beneficial in this battle royale. Despite being a part of the Zenin clan, Maki is denied the tools, her father having hid them before she even arrived. And that isn't all. Her father also fatally wounds Maki's twin, Mai. Ergo, Mai dies and leaves Maki with a fully realized heavenly restriction. Of course, she listens to her dying sister's last words and murders her entire family, leaving only Maki and Megumi as the sole survivors of the Zenin name. The massacre does imply a change. The other two big families, Kamo and Gojo, vote out Zenin from the big three. Yet, this is postponed by the higher-ups, most likely due to the beginning of the culling games as well as the chaos of unleashed curses. While this violent altercation occurs, Yuji and company find Tengen, who explains the culling games and gives background on Kenjaku. Then Megumi and Yuji meet up with Panda, who is involved in an illegal fight club run by third-year student Kinji Akari. Akari was suspended recently for fighting with Jujutsu High authorities. Simple. Yuta explains that Akari is more powerful than him, when worked up. Sadly, talking to Hikari isn't easy. Yuji has to enroll in the fight club, while Megumi and Panda snoop around. This isn't an easy task. Hikari has a fellow student, Hirara, guarding him. Though in the end, Hikari does agree to help. November 12, 2018. Rather than a jam-packed week, this is a busy day. On November 12th, Yuta within the colony faces off against several past sorcerers, as well as a disgusting cockroach spirit. Yuta, being a special grade, he defeats the 3 opponents easily. At the same time, Yuji, Megumi, Panda, and Kinji declare their intent to join the culling game. Each sorcerer is transported to a random colony, not sharing locations. Being a battle royal, several fights do break out. Megumi faces off against and kills reincarnated sorcerer Reggie Star. Reggie isn't all bad, he gives Megumi his points just as he dies. Megumi doesn't escape without harm though. His unconscious body is retrieved by none other than a rival participant, Angel. Yuji himself goes after lawyer-turned-sorcerer Higuruma with the hope to convince him to enact another rule. On the other hand, Hikari plans to find the reincarnated sorcerer Hajime Kashimo, who still has 100 points despite already implementing another rule. For context, adding rules is 100 points, so Hajime killed at least 40 other sorcerers during the last 12 days. Before Hikari can find Hajime, he comes to blows with aspiring mangaka Charles Bernard. Just from a day, the games are shaping up to be the same neck-breaking pace Shibuya was, complete with high stakes. It's a battle for survival. That being said, the theme of achieving your goals no matter what will seemingly bring the darkness out. Each character is presented with dire situations that test their morality and how badly they want to stop the game. Personally, I think this arc will outperform Shibuya for that alone, especially considering Yuji and Yuta are going out of their way to spare people. Meanwhile, Megumi has no qualms with killing. Only time will tell how this arc will turn out. Unfortunately, that concludes the current timeline for Jujutsu Kaisen. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Until next time, keep that plot armor on you. I'm KJ. Have a great day. Bye.